Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. The First Descendant launch was crazy popular, promising a mix of fast-paced action, competitive looter-shooter mechanics, and sci-fi wonderland. But the year is 2025, and the shine is worn off the game. And we're going to investigate, is this game, The First Descendant, worth your time in 2025? So I'm going to cover the initial game success, core gameplay mechanics, what attracted people to this game, what made it fun for me releasing a bunch of YouTube videos on this that were actually quite successful, and why did people leave, or what's holding the game back from being the next big looter shooter permanently. Let's get started. So I first encountered The First Descendant playing a private closed beta, and I was kind of blown away. Me as a player, I am not necessarily known on the YouTube channel for looter shooters, more of an MMO or RPG type of guy. I never played Warframe, so I didn't have a lot of experience in this, but I played a lot of Destiny 2, so I loved the co-op PvE, and that's exactly what The First Descendant had, with some cool third-person over-the-shoulder view, along with fast action gameplay. So when I played the closed beta, I'm like, man, this game's gonna be huge. It's just fun early on. And I was right, actually, for once. The game launched and absolutely blew up. It went nuclear for a game that didn't have a huge, massive amount of following and hype, peaking at 264,000 players on July 1st. In fact, I had kind of a fun father-son thing where we just sat and played laptops in the middle of a cabin in the woods, because we're true gamers, and so every vacation on 4th of July has to involve video games. But it was a great memory, just us playing, jamming out, making some YouTube videos, and the player population was huge. But quickly thereafter, it started to dip. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and the core gameplay mechanics in one of my favorite looter shooters of recent memory. The First Descendant is a third-person looter shooter. It's built around cooperative PvE. So you pick a Descendant, which is basically your class, and they have each unique abilities, weapons. You take them and just destroy enemies, waves, and bosses. So when you very first start the game, you have to progress and complete a story, and then it opens up to a massive map in the open world. So think kind of Destiny 2 here, that you can go to various locations and have various different zones and activities within these zones that can unlock specific rewards and or are required via the main story progression. So what it does is it introduces you to these zones, which is semi-open world. You complete one, come back to Albion, the main city, do a little story section, and then go back into a new world. So there is a main story progression. Nothing super interesting or exciting here, but similar to Destiny 2. So you have some open world exploration, but it's mainly closed, but giving you a sense of exploration. Once you complete those missions, they're repeatable, so you can repeat them again for specific gear like mods, which I'll touch on a little bit later. What really stands out about the game is that it revolves around just looter shooter constant progression. So when you very first start out, you're getting tons of stuff no matter what you do, and your character quickly progresses. Whether it's modules, reactors, external components, weapons, and even descendants, you feel this constant flood of dopamine when you're just progressing. Your character viscerally feels more powerful, and this game gives it to you in spades. But it does something really tricky, and that's the monetization, which you can buy power straight up, and it's pretty slippery slope. So the main core of the game is Descendants. This is what you basically want to unlock. They're going to have specific abilities with them, but to unlock them, you have to research individual components, or you can buy them outright. So when you come to Descendant menu, they will give you a sneak preview of what they do and their skills. You'll have to unlock them and kind of power them up via leveling your individual Descendant. Then you can reset them and make it more powerful over time. So you can see I got heavily invested into a lot of these Descendants. Specifically, Bunny is one of the main attractions. Electrical, super fast. The gameplay was just exceptionally fun with Bunny, and was the main hit character of the initial launch of the game. As you can see, they kind of over-the-top boob jiggle mechanics with Bunny, and that's kind of one of the downsides of these Descendants. They're over-sexualized, which yes, it is a video game, but some people like that. I thought it was kind of odd, but they give you a bunch of different skills and or passes, specifically status effects. So you see Ultimate Viesa here has this ice sphere, ice needle. So there is a lot of coordination and mechanics PvE wise to stack your team with very specific different kind of elements to tackle some of the hardest bosses in the game. You got like Valby here, who is water-based, Enzo, kind of unique, interesting, using turrets, Freyna, poison. You got Yoon here, who's kind of a healer. So you have enough variety in these Descendants, and you have enough progression to play them over and over and over, and then reset them once they hit max level to increase a mod socket. All right, so the Descendants are really cool, right? They have unique abilities, they look, feel different, they play various different speeds, mobility, cool special effects, but how you get them? Well, this is the downside of the First Descendant, right? They're going to give you a problem and sell you a solution because it's a free-to-play game. And we know how these go. Anything that's free-to-play has to have some oversaturated monetization. And this game really, I think, killed it, but specifically with Descendants, weapons, and modules, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But I want you to get this point. You can earn the Descendants, but they make it dreadful for you to do so. So it's so much easier to swipe your credit card and get instant gratification. I gotta admit, I'm guilty of this. So we take Ultimate Lepic here. I did buy him. I know I'm a scumbag, but you know, what can I say? You have to get a lot of crap to get him unlocked. Each of these 4 specific components. Now, if you go acquisition information, it will tell you what you have to do. So typically, you have to farm this one specific encounter in the Agna Desert, which will drop possibly 25% chance to drop this Amorphous. Once you take this Amorphous, then you have to go in the individual dungeon and get another 5, 10, 15, 20% chance to drop the actual pattern. So you're stacking RNG on top of RNG, meaning you're gonna have to do the exact same mission a gazillion times most likely to unlock one component out of the 4 that you need, making your life miserable. And that's where the shop comes into play. You can simply jump in the shop, go to Ultimate Descendants here, and for roughly 50, 60, 70 bucks, depending on what it is, you can just buy them straight up, and they come with cool skins. Look at this one, I got little wings on here. And they have these upgrade catalyst and modules, which are really useful to get and advance your power quickly. The game does not force you to buy these, to be fair. But if you're like me, someone that likes a little instant gratification, I gotta admit it, it's really easy to click and get sucked up into this. Now, not all is bad with the First Descendant. The gameplay is so fun. I like that it was PvE, not PvP, mainly because I'm a 40-year-old dad and my reflexes suck, right? So it was a lot easier for me to group up with a few buddies and get carried through content versus trying to nuke down a 16-year-old in their basement chugging their 15th Mountain Dew for the day. So you'll have a lot of instance-based content as well as open world, and some of it was extremely challenging. So you have these infiltrations, normal and hard, and these are like your dungeons in various different zones. You can get a low percentage chance to get these modules, which you insert into your individual Descendants components and individual Descendant, and that's what kind of makes you more powerful. So you grind these things over and over and over with a low percentage chance to get these powerful mods. My favorite thing when the game initially launched was these void intercept battles. So you had to go through normal to unlock hard, and they're kind of based on your gear score and your level of equipment. And these were actually quite hard. I didn't even beat the Death Stalker yet, but as you can see, it gives you the sense of progression as you're going through the open world, and they're very fun. If you click on the individual monster, you can see that they have attribute resistance, and they have attack attribute. So this is where it comes in. This very individual Descendant that you use can have a huge impact on the gameplay. Frostwalker, for instance, Blair is going to be using fire. So matching the right Descendant against the right boss and mob is awesome. Plus you have the grappling mechanic. The grapple hook made movement and just the overall speed of the game feel so much more fast and fluid, especially when you take it into these big, huge boss encounters. You're using the grappling hook to get on, rip off, and destroy these individual components. You have a DPS phase where you're nuking it down, and the PvE really felt satisfying, especially initially with these individual boss battles. Now they've expanded on it since I was playing and unlocked some more. So there is content that has been added, making the game more robust in terms of their PvE and doing the game. You also have something else that you can do is special operation terminals. These are like defending or basically wave of mobs, and the longer you go, the better equipment and gear you can get. So you have a bunch of things you can collect inside of here as well if you like doing private or public. So there is a decent amount of content that you can do, but with no PvP, what ends up happening is you have this gear chase for these very specific mods and components with a low percentage drop chance. Thus, it's very grindy and repetitive. If you're like me, I like to grind stuff. I like the combat is fun and the gameplay is fast. I'll just sit in Discord and kill the same monster over and over and over for 2-3 hours and just have a good old time. But most players are going to be turned off on this because your progression in the First Descendant goes through the roof immediately, and then it really tapers off and you hit this wall where you're doing the same thing over and over and over for one individual piece to increase your power, and that's where you kind of fall off. You just skyrocket in power and then boom, you're stuck, and it's not very fun to grind over and over. Now, in the First Descent, I've talked about the mods and the weapons. So the weapons, they have a lot of variety. They have status effects, you can mod them individually, you can customize them, and there's a lot to do with individual weapons. So if this isn't confusing yet for most of you that haven't played this, you'll have individual mod sockets on your weapons and on your descendants. So you can add increased damage, you can add increased critical chance, weak point damage, which is kind of like headshots, critical hit rate, and then you can set 1, 2, or 3 custom setups. So if you have something for mobbing, something for bossing, or something for a specific boss, you can set it up. Pretty standard stuff here. You got sniper rifles, you got assault rifles, you got all sorts of different weapons, and everyone's favorite originally when the game launched was the Thunder Cage. The Thunder Cage was essentially given to you pretty early on in the game, very easy to get a hold of, has electric shock, and it paired well with Bunny. So what the game did exceptionally well at launch is they gave you a really powerful Descendant and they gave you a really powerful weapon to pair with it. So you just felt like you were absolutely nuking everything right away, and it gave you that progression and sense of awe of just destroying everything, zipping around with Bunny. And that only lasts so long until you hit the endgame wall. But this Thunder Cage with Bunny was a great move by the developers. Now, if you go into your individual Descendants, you'll have a bunch of different components. Descendant modules. So this is kind of what you grind endgame wise. You'll have your individual mod capacity, 51 out of 60. Now with that, you can get additional mod slots, energy activator use. 0 out of 1. So max capacity up, you need to use these energy activators. Now, as you can imagine, you can grind out the material over and over and over and make them, or you can buy them from the store. So what was happening at the launch of game is people were just buying these in droves, slotting all of their sockets, grinding out these Descendants, getting super powerful in like a day or so, or the people that have to play the game and grind over and over would take 3 or 4 months to get there. Basically, as you can imagine, pay to win. Same sort of thing with weapon, you can do beginner, meta, all sorts of different combinations. Expand this up to 80 and then hunt down these individual mods. What's really cool about these mods is they have a lot of unique flavors and interesting mechanics, like HP collector. When defeating an enemy, instantly recover 9% of your max health. You got MP collector, you have multi-talented, final wish, overwhelming HP. So you have a bunch of mods that really customize your individual Descendant and can come up with wild, crazy builds for tanking, healing, damage, status effects, you name it. Combine the mods availability along with the weapons and the weapon mods, you really can fine tune a build. And this is what kept me playing for months and months, was just being able to fine tune specific builds and take on those challenging bosses. So as you can see, the game, a lot of fun, very quick to jump in, feel powerful, but then you hit that wall. And this is where monetization comes in. I've said this 1,000 times in other videos, but typically free-to-play games create a problem and then sell you the solution. I know I spent probably $200-300 on the game. Yeah, I know I'm a whale, flame me in the comments, it's fine. Because I wanted that progression. I was on vacation on July 4th, so I justified it and bought a bunch of Descendants and a bunch of modules, and after $300 on my credit card, I'm like, crap, why did I do this? Because I'm an instant gratification millennial, hello? But in all seriousness, the monetization, the over-sexualization of the Descendants is what killed this game in my opinion. Let me show you. So number 1, you have a battle pass. Everyone loves a good battle pass, right? Where you can basically do all these challenges and collect things seasonal, weekly, daily to keep you coming back. And then you have the shop. So the shop sells you basically every single thing that you could want, especially skins. A lot of these skins are not earnable per se, so it's really hard to justify spending all this money when you can't earn it in-game with your time. Typically, decent free-to-play games will give you a chance to earn a lot of materials, skins, and collectibles with having only a few in stock that you can't actually earn. But here you have Descendants, you have Ultimate Descendants. I guess you got dogs now too. You have skins, premium skins. And a lot of their development seems to be more towards boob jiggle physics versus the actual individual game. So as you can see, they want to collect all of these and charge you a premium price, and it starts to add up. And you can see what the caliber actually cost you. $69, 70 bucks for 390 caliber. So if you wanted to buy an ultimate Descendant for, let's say, 3,000, that's 70 bucks, dude. So you're gonna spend a lot. And then if you go to these individual support tanks, you can buy all the little upgrades and weapon components. So if you're neurotic like me and want to get power quickly and you're a millennial, you're clicking very quickly and can easily blow through $100 in a couple of seconds. Now, this is capitalism, right? They want to make money. I understand. I'm not against it. And I should have some self-control. I know, poor shame on me. But at the end of the day, they make the gameplay loop very repetitive, very simple, and really low chance in RNG. So that way you're more inclined to buy the specific components versus spending 30, 40 hours grinding something you really don't want to do. All right, that's enough ranting, I think. Should you play the First Descendant in 2025? My opinion is probably not. There's probably better games like Warframe or Destiny 2 that will give you something similar, which is build customization, cool combat, cool cosmetics, without the grind or the over monetization. Now, if we look at Steam charts, this game has fallen off a cliff after its initial launch. As I'm looking right now, you're looking at an average player base of around 8,000. In the first 30 days, it was 127,000. So the game launched, everyone was playing it, getting that bunny, getting that thunder cage, feeling progression. Then they reached endgame and realized they could just pay to win, fight the same monsters, and not really have much to do or to progress. Without PvP at the endgame fighting other players, the repetitive loop just had you progress, collect a new thing, and sitting around waiting for the next content to launch. So while I love the First Descendant at launch, I don't think it has the staying power of other games in the marketplace, and hopefully you can find something better that's not going to prey on you to buy a bunch of crap game. Sorry, First Descendant, you're off my list in 2025. If you got something out of this video, thumbs up, leave me a comment, and I'll keep cranking out these videos. Thanks for watching.